It's match day in the Premier League. Arsenal return to action against AFC Bournemouth with what is for some the trickiest test of the remaining three games. Manchester City take on Wolves, with Arsenal crossing their fingers harder than they ever have before. We've got transfer news, Mikel Arteta to discuss, and some good news with injuries. Let's go ahead into today's Arsenal news show. Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another episode of what is our Arsenal news show, joining you every single morning at 8 a.m. UK time. Thank you as always and ever so much for joining me. It is an absolute privilege and I'm so humbled to join you every single morning for your morning routines as we round off the latest Arsenal news and take your questions, of course, as well from the chat box. I hope you've had a fantastic start to your weekend. I hope Friday evening treated you well, and that you're looking forward to a fantastic game at the Emirates this afternoon. I'm looking forward to heading off there in just about an hour's time. In fact, looking forward to getting inside the Emirates, having a slap-up breakfast and getting ready to cover the Gunners, as always. Good morning to those joining us live in the chat. Hope you're doing good. Hope you're doing well. James, Matt G, Steve, Barry, Kevin, Carl, Damien. We've got Rowan and Blackshine, Angela, Stephen, Peter, Martin, Amira, Stevie, Roy, Granddaddy Gooner, Paul, Temi, and Maximius, and Owen, and Jalali. Good morning to all of you. Thank you so much to everybody for tuning in on what is match day. Of course, always a trickier game to get our likes up to 1,000 because everyone's so locked in and ready. And with it being a 12:30 kickoff, you know, this show goes out of date very quickly. So if you could help us to reach 1K likes on this morning's video, that would be hugely appreciated. So please do not waste any time and make sure you press that thumbs up because it would be a huge help to us. Without further ado, though, let's jump into today's stories. You can check out the preview show that we did yesterday. I was joined by three fantastic guests, as always, Alex, Dan, and Leo, joining me to discuss the game. We went through our lineups. We went through who we'd go for. We went through what this means, our thoughts about Manchester City and the title race as well. That's the previous upload on the channel. So if you're looking for more content this morning after today's show, make sure you go and catch up on yesterday evening's preview show. Under 21s progress the playoffs. Absolutely fantastic to see them progress once again. Goals from Butler Oyadeji, got a brace. So did Koja Dubry. Ethan Nwaneri scored a penalty, and Henry Francis as well getting a goal too. They progressed to the next round of the competition. And a best of luck to Mehmet Ali's side. This is a new format of the Premier League Under 21s system. They'll face the winner of Chelsea in the next round. I'm not sure who Chelsea are playing, but they will face the winner of whoever Chelsea got, unless Chelsea did win, which they may have already done. They'll face them at Meadow Park. It's scheduled to take place on between May 10th and May 13th, I believe. So make sure if you want to get down to Meadow Park and watch the game, go and do it. It's a really great, I think, end and switch up for the Premier League 2's kind of format. So best of luck to the young fellas taking part in that. Meanwhile, in our Premier League roundup, going through today's games, Arsenal are the early kickoff, 12:30 against Bournemouth. Very much looking forward to being at the Emirates early this morning and then into the afternoon, of course. Brentford take on Fulham. Burnley take on Newcastle United. Sheffield United take on Nottingham Forest in the other 3 o'clock kickoff. And then the other big game, of course, with Arsenal hoping to have already got their 3 points and progressed to a 4-point lead. We hope that Wolves can once again, as they already have done this season when they won 2-1 at Molineux earlier in the campaign, can repeat that feat and beat Manchester City, or at least take a couple of points off them. We keep our fingers crossed and hope that that is certainly going to be the case. Meanwhile, David Ornstein's been talking in a Athletic Q&A about Arsenal's links to Bruno Guimaraes. He says that Arsenal really like Bruno Guimaraes as an option if they are to recruit a 6. He can also operate as an 8, but Newcastle, Arsenal and others view him as a 6. Guimaraes has a £100 million release clause. I'm not sure if Arsenal or anyone else will want or be able to pay that level of money for him, although there are always other solutions that can be explored to try and make such a signing possible. Newcastle, however, do not want to lose him. Bruno seems extremely happy at Newcastle, and that works in their favour. That said, there are a few players who would decline a move to a club like Arsenal, especially given what is happening there at the moment, should the clubs pursue a deal. Let's see what the summer brings. So that's David Ornstein speaking there about the potential for Arsenal to sign a very good player, a player I know that divides opinion for his personality, but not in terms of his quality. He's a fantastic progressive footballer. I think would add a lot of quality to the Arsenal team. Interesting hearing David Honestly there talk about him as a six and seeing that's how Arsenal and Newcastle would see him. I think he's got lots of traits that would make him a good six, but certainly I think progresses loads of plays for Newcastle, plays very well as an eight as well. So I think there is scope for him to play in both positions for Arsenal. But if he was to come in, I think I'd play him ahead of Rice rather than behind Rice. But one to keep an eye on as we continue through the season and into the summer, of course, as well. Now, Mikel Arteta conducted his press conference yesterday, was asked about all the latest information ahead of the game. He was asked, interestingly, about Jurrien. Of course, we know now that Arsenal have offered a brand new deal, according to The Athletic, and he says, I would love to keep him. He knows that. The club is fully supportive of that. He's a really important player with us on and off the field, and he makes us better. So I want him to stay. And that's certainly the right message to be sending out to a player as important as Jorginho, of course, as well. He was asked about how the game went last season against Bournemouth and Reece Nelson's 97th minute winner. He says, I had a great memory because the game ended in a really beautiful way and it was one of the highlights of the season. So we know we're going to have to earn it tomorrow again. It's going to be a really tough match, but the team is ready. And on this never say die attitude that Arsenal have, he says at any stage, but now obviously with what is there to win, we know that we're going to have to win games in different ways, and that can be won. Hopefully tomorrow it's not that, but if it has to be to win it, we will welcome it, which I think is the right way forward. I saw Rory tweet yesterday saying like he didn't want a repeat of last season. And to be honest, I don't care if it's a repeat of last season. As long as we get the 3 points, that is all that matters. Getting the 3 points is the most important thing, and hopefully we can get that. You can read the full entire transcript, of course, on the football.london website and on the Arsenal website as well. But the key thing I think that everyone will be happy about is Arsenal having a fully fit squad now and Jurrien Timber returning to the team. He says, yes, everybody is fit and available, so now it's a headache to make the right selection. But a good headache, he points out as well. He asked about how we'd done if Partey and Timber hadn't played more this season. He says, do you have a coin? I have no clue. We have missed them because when you have them around, the team is more competitive. That's more quality there, more leadership there, that's for sure. To be honest as well, the players that have played in their positions have been exceptional. So let's see. Now probably your question in 3 or 6 months' time when they have both played, hopefully a lot of games, can be more concrete. And that's interesting to hear him talk about months in advance with Partey there. Maybe a little bit of an indication that he wants to keep the Ghanaian into next season. He was asked on the lift that the squad will have having Jurrien Timber back, and he says it does because it increases the quality of the training sessions. You see how commanding he is, his leadership and his quality, and the rest have to lift up. They start to demand more of each other, and they look at each other and say, I better be good because I want to keep playing. These are very positive things for the squad. And about where he will make his impact, he says, we're not going to know until we throw him in. It's tricky because it's only 3 games to go and he's missed 8 months of football. He's played only 50 minutes of football then the 21s. He also played 71 minutes. I don't know if Arteta missed that game. So it's a question as has he been resolved only by throwing him on the pitch and seeing what happens. We have to try and nail that decision. I would be surprised if we didn't see Jurrien Timber off the bench today. I'm really looking forward to potentially seeing him get some minutes today and seeing what he can do to the team, and that's great. So I look forward to that with bated breath, as they say. So yeah, that should be a lot of fun. Also is a lot of fun is getting some fantastic grub in your mug. And that is certainly what HelloFresh will provide you at an exceptionally good price as well. HelloFresh are today's sponsors of the channel and return from a couple of months ago when they helped sponsor the channel and supported us also. If you go to the HelloFresh website, you can do that by scanning the QR code or going to the link down in the description and using the code HelloGooner. You can get yourself a significant discount off your first box. Now, these boxes contain some exceptional ingredients for some exceptional meals. HelloFresh are very kind enough to send me some recipes to try. I've used HelloFresh in the past. I used HelloFresh when they supported us last time, and I thought I'd go for some different ones. And what I tend to do when I use websites like brilliance of HelloFresh is tend to go for things I wouldn't typically tend to cook. So this time, I mean, I went a little bit floozy with this one. A 21-day age rump steak with cheesy garlic mash. That was excellent. That's the one you can see on the table in front of me there on your screen. I also went for a Portuguese-inspired peri-peri feast. You know I love my peri-peri, and had to go with the peri-peri feast, which you can see on the right-hand side of your screen. The coleslaw, by the way. I know coleslaw is incredibly underrated, but my goodness me. I'm a big lover of coleslaw, and theirs was stunning. But I think my favourite of the 3 that I had was the Chipotle pork tacos and wedges. And I did my pork wedges actually in an air fryer because we've got it's a big craze at the moment, air fryers, and I did them in there. It's a little trick I've got for you is to put them in a bowl of boiling water, put a little tea towel over the top, leave them for 15 minutes or so. This isn't like, you don't have to boil them up, and then put them in the air fryer and you get them, just perfect. And HelloFresh, of course, giving you that 60% discount for your first box. You can get additional discounts off the next 2 months that you're involved in the scheme as well. And some free desserts involved as well. If you keep going, you keep using HelloFresh, you're going to get free desserts for life. It's certainly worth getting involved in. And I had a little chocolate pudding, which was gorgeous. And after that, got straight back on the diet. I can promise you that. But you get lots of healthy options as well. You can select kind of the ones that are the lower calorie options on the website. It's really good for that if you are watching your weight and watching how many calories you consume as well. So go to the link down in the description, scan that QR code on the screen, use the code HelloGooner, and get yourself a significant discount off a plan of yours. And let me know if you do, and let me know what you end up cooking as well. Right, let's go to part 2, though, and your questions right after this. Right then, let's jump into the chat box, shall we? And have a look at what you're all chatting about. Rob says, with an emphasis from Arteta, 4 players able to play 2 positions, even in the same game, Benny Blanco, Zinni, Timber, and Jesus, Saka, Havertz, which potential summer signings would give us the most options? It's a really good question. It is obviously something that Arteta likes to do, is sign players that can give you multiple coverage across different areas of the field. Midfielders, you're going to look at players like Bruno Guimaraes, who can play a 6, can play an 8, can even play a 10 as well. You're going to look at forwards like Nico Williams, who can play on the left or the right-hand side. Xavi Simons, of course, can play in multiple positions as well. Even Alexander Isak can play in a wide left position as well. So all of those things combined, I think, would give Arsenal plenty of coverage. And in defence, of course, we're being linked to Diamande. He's played in midfield. He's played at fullback in younger periods of his career as well. Maybe he's the right guy to go for. So I think that those types of players would offer Arsenal plenty of coverage across the field as well. Jalali says, Tom, has there been any more news about Gabriel Heinze joining the coaching staff? It feels like it could be a great acquisition. This is a story that went around social media recently. I'm not sure if there is anything on this and on Arsenal getting the player, but this was kind of a story from 3 weeks ago. The Mirror ran a story which said Mikel Arteta is keen on adding a fresh face to his Arsenal backroom staff, and has identified Manchester United's former star Gabriel Heinze, or Heinz. Some people call him Gabriel Heinz, as in Heinz beans. I always thought it was Heinze, but I'm happy to be proven wrong. Of course, Albert Stuvenberg and Carlos Cuesta have been linked with moves away from Arsenal, and Arsenal would be looking to try and replace them if they need to. It says, according to ESPN Argentina, the Gunners boss is keen on recruiting the former man to the team, and the same report claims that Heinze has a number of options on the table, including taking over the Argentinian top flight outfit San Lorenzo as manager. However, Arteta will look to try and persuade him and his former teammate from PSG to come to the Emirates as well. So I've not heard anything on this, but it's gone quiet since that story from 3 weeks ago. Rancy says, why do you think Saka is getting more criticism than Martinelli? Fans are very quick to moan about Saka's performances, but Martinelli is having a bit of an off-season and it's not much talked about. I think people hold Saka to a higher regard. Obviously, he's English and he's one of our academy graduates and he's incredibly highly thought of. And so he does tend to get more. There are other reasons behind it. I've written, not necessarily maybe from our fans, but there's certainly criticisms from outside of the club. There's a number of reasons for that. There's certainly some unfortunate systemic racism involved in a lot of criticism of black players. And Saka, as we know from his time with England and the reaction to that European Championship penalty miss, we know that there is so much evidence of that existing. So Saka getting more criticism than other players. It's sad to say that probably plays an impact for sadly some people. But also I think there's another side of it, which is more of a positive side, which is we hold Saka to such high regard that he does tend to attract more criticism sometimes. Shay says, Tom, did you see rumours of Koja Dubry going to Newcastle? Not sure if it's got any truth to it. Well, Arsenal are, of course, in a bit of a weak position with Koja Dubry. His contract, I believe, expires at the end of the season. There's been no suggestions of a contract renewal at this stage. So it wouldn't surprise me at the moment if that was to be the case, if he was to move on in the summer to try and get some more minutes, because it's difficult to see them happening at Arsenal. Aaron says, if Zinni actually makes an overlap, do you think his connection will react in a good swing for the goals that Timber has a spot to try? And what do you think about that? It's an interesting question about kind of Zinni and Timber and the dynamic of those two. Timber's got an eye for goal, clearly, with his goal. He scored for the under 21s, but I don't know if he scored many goals during his time with Ajax. Zinchenko's future is still very much up in the air. I'm not sure if he's the type to overlap as kind of a fullback. He's much more of an inverted player, whereas Timber, I think, can do both jobs. I think he can do both. I think he can overlap. I think he can underlap and offer a little bit more unpredictability than what Zinchenko can offer from that. And he's better defensively, obviously, than Zinchenko as well. Maximir says, hey, Tom, what are your thoughts on Phil Foden getting the Player of the Year award with 40% of the votes? Rice came a distant second. I mean, Phil Foden has been obviously very good for Man City, and the likelihood is that Man City are probably going to win the league, and it does tend to be the player that plays for the team that wins the league does end up being a player that wins the Player of the Year. So it'd be interesting if Arsenal win the league. Would that change for the PFA Player of the Year instead? And if that changes things, but Phil Foden's had a brilliant campaign. You've got to respect it. But Declan Rice has also been very, very good as well. BX Gunner says, my alarm is set for 4 hours from now and I need to go to bed. North American problems. I don't blame you, mate. And get the best sleep you can, because, of course, you can have to be up early in the morning for Arsenal's game against Bournemouth at 12:30 UK time here as well. Grandmaster says, Tom, love the show. Usually listen on catch up, but I can join live today. Question, do you have any match day food routines? To be fair, I've had a couple, both as a fan and obviously working in the media as well. As a fan, I'm a big fan of Roosters, which you can find just around the corner from the 12 Pins pub by Finsbury Park Station. Just produce some of the best chicken wraps that you can have. The lamb wraps also very, very good. And also back in the day when Piebury Corner was around, used to love an Ian Wright pie. Sadly not around anymore. And then previously, or rather more modern times of being on working in the media there, sometimes if I want to try and break the cycle of scrounging the free food that you get inside the Emirates for media, there is a pizza place called, let me see if I can find it. I think it's called Zia Lucia on Holloway Road, which was my choice of pizza place. Yes, Zia Lucia. You can find on Holloway Road. It's very close, within stone's throw of the Emirates as well. That was a bit of a pre-match ritual for a little while of grabbing a pizza before the Emirates. Especially if it was like an evening game, I'd go there in mid-afternoon and grab one of them. So yeah, there's some ritual food for you. Aaron says Roosters is bloody good. It is very good indeed. Jurgen says, Tom, how do you think your life would look like if you were not a football fan? That's a tough question because football is nearly my entire life. It's my job, it's my passion, and it takes up every single day, of course. How would it be different? I don't know if I'd still be teaching or not. I escaped teaching, not necessarily just to chase kind of this dream of football journalism, but I left teaching because also it was a real drain. And if you know or are a teacher, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not even necessarily the classroom bit was the best bit. Teaching the kids was the best part of the job. I was so passionate about that bit of the job, and thankfully I had some fantastic classes as well. But the worst parts were the politics, the expectations of the workload was frankly disgusting. And there was just such a lack of empathy, I think, for teachers from kind of a higher up position. That's certainly how I felt as a teacher at the time, the lack of empathy that there was. So I don't know if I'd still be teaching. I might have gone into something different, maybe some video production or something like that. I've always been passionate about editing and writing and producing and stuff like that. So maybe something different. Maybe it'd be a different sport. Maybe it'd be Formula One. Maybe it'd have been tennis. I like these other sports, and maybe it would have been that. Angela says, what about Arsenal's cheesecake? They haven't had the cheesecake in a while. I'm still waiting for it. It won't be today because it's an early kickoff, so we've got like breakfast stuff, and then it'll be like fruit and yogurt and granola and stuff. It's very, very lovely. But yeah, Arsenal's cheesecake is the one when they do it, but it's not been there for a little while. They've had I've had some very nice desserts though. Still, there's little passion fruit tarts, little almond, Bakewell tarts as well. Half time they usually do the pies. It's been a pretty regular thing at the moment, or soup. Some very nice soups as well. A little bit more seasoning, a little bit more. But other than that, they're fine. Andrew says, "Go get Bruno, Rice, and Bruno can play a 6 or an 8. It gives Arteta more options, and plus we need a little more players with passion and bite as well." Salahuddin says, "Who's your FPL captain?" I don't know if I even did my FPL. Now I think about it, because there was a game last night, wasn't there? So I think I've missed the. I may have missed that. Yeah, I definitely missed it. I've missed the deadline, which means Isaac. Oh, Isaac! I did bring Isaac in. Okay, my captain this week. For some reason, my my captain this week is Trent Alexander-Arnold, because I forgot to take it off from 2 weeks ago. So he's still my captain. I don't know why. Such a terrible decision, but yeah, he wouldn't have been my captain at all. It would have been like Havertz, I think. But goodness me, that pays. No, I've given up at this point. I'm not going to win any leagues. I'm not really going to get any higher either. So I probably would have gone Havertz if I was paying attention, but I've not. BX Gunner says, "Looks like we'll wear the current home kit all the way to the end of the season, but the new home kit drops on the 16th. There's been no suggestions yet that, of course, we'll wear the new home kit on the final day. And to be honest, I don't think we should. You know, we could still the possibility that the league could be won on the final day. I think we should wear the kit that we've worn all season to do that. So I think that's really important." Domenico says, "Tom, did you get to vote in the recent awards?" No, I didn't. It's kind of like people get picked, but I'm not in that sphere at the moment. Colger Mark says, "Tom, fantastic show as always. Question, which one of the academy players do you think is ready for the first team next season and should be given a serious chance?" I think obviously Ethan Nwaneri is the one that stands out the most. And you think that he would be the one that would be the most likely to get opportunities in the Arsenal first team. But I guess we'll have to wait and see if that turns out to be the case. It's worth mentioning that Max Doman, the 14-year-old that's on a lot of people's radars at the moment, trained with the Arsenal first team this week, which is pretty incredible. Imagine that, a 14-year-old training with players, some double his age, like Partey and Jorginho as well. Absolutely mad, but shows you the talent that we've got coming through the ranks at the moment. It's exciting. It's very exciting. Paul says, "Teaching myths. You get 13 weeks off and only work 9 to 3 each day. Working with kids is easy. Marking, how hard can it be?" Yeah, these are some of the biggest myths, of course. The 13 weeks off a year, like if I told you how many weeks I actually had off, because they were when I actually had a day off spent marking or planning or creating lessons or doing data, or just in a fit of stress because of what's coming, or mock marking, or GCSE proper marking and practice paper marking. The 13 weeks off a year is the biggest myth in teaching. It's mad. And yeah, Darren says 30 plus kids in a classroom isn't exactly a small amount. No, it's not. And I had like 12 to 13 classes, which ranged. I taught a girls' school, so it was from year 7 up to A level, so teaching 11 through to 18-year-old secondary girls' school it's a lot. It's tough. And Wontong Soup says parents definitely have little empathy. I mean, some. It's always important to say some. Definitely, there was always an element of some not having the empathy or the understanding, very much thinking that like they're your problem now. It's like that's not how it works. We aren't babysitters. But there's definitely a lot of misconceptions around the profession and views of it as well. Matt G says, "Tom, did you read on Twitter that we are going to offer Jesus and 60 million for Isak?" No, I didn't. I haven't heard that at all. But if you asked me if I'd do that deal, I absolutely would, yes. So Nicholas says, "Tom, what podcast do you listen to outside of the sport? I have 4 hours to kill." I listen to the Off Menu podcast quite a lot, which is a podcast by 2 comedians here in the UK, Ed Gamble and James Acaster. They interview a random celebrity each week and ask them their favourite side course, main dish, drink and dessert in their dream restaurant. So it's a great podcast. I recommend it very, very highly, and it's it's very good. So yeah, that's my non-sport podcast that I tend to listen to as well. And I'm always catching up on James O'Brien's daily show over on other radio stations as well. So yeah, always good to get your heads switched on a little bit more in terms of current affairs as well. Rob says, have Raya's Golden Gloves been heavily overlooked? Ramsdale was in Team of the Year with less. Has pundits going hard on Arteta's decision in the early season affected that and kind of the keep it quiet sort of thing? I think David Raya has been incredibly underrated to a degree. Yes, I think there's certainly scrutiny and certainly there's a level of rightful criticism of some of the things he's done, but he is without a doubt overly criticised and he's underrated as a goalkeeper. And I think, winning the Golden Glove is a brilliant achievement for him as well. Sean says, I spend some 4 of those 13 weeks in recovery and then another 2 of them at the tail end prepping for the next term. So it's more like 7 weeks, which is, 7 weeks in terms of it's still a lot of time off. Don't get me wrong, but it's needed just to kind of detach from the mental drain that job entails. Amiral Gooner says, Tom, did you see the TNT podcast when Emmanuel met Arteta? It was brilliant. Yes, I did. I watched it this morning. It was excellent. And Emmanuel did a absolutely stunning and stellar job interviewing Mikel Arteta. Asked some better questions than I've asked him, that's for sure. He did really, really well. Matt G says, the Jesus cash offer was tweeted by IndyCar News. Not sure how reliable. I'm pretty sure that comes from KFC, doesn't it? If you're very well versed in the history of Arsenal ITKs, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. Domenico says, aerial presence of Raya is brilliant. Stats for his claims are out of sight as well. Yeah, he commands his box probably better than any goalkeeper in the league. His stats in that regard. I think he's something like 12% of crosses he collects, and the next best kind of level is like 67% for the next goalkeeper. It's something ridiculous like that. I don't think that's exactly spot on, but it's very darn close. Anyway, we're going to wrap the show up there because I've got to get ready to head off to the Emirates this morning. Very much looking forward to it. If you are heading to the game, enjoy, stay safe travels, of course, as always. If you're not and you're getting up at stupid o'clock somewhere in the world, enjoy it. Make sure you head down to your local Arsenal supporters club and get involved in the environment and the atmosphere and enjoy it. Hopefully it won't be as stressful as a game as it could have been and as it was last season, of course, as well. It's exciting and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm hoping that we can just get the job done and then we can just casually watch Wolves batter Manchester City. Have a fantastic Saturday. I hope that it is good for you. Stay safe, stay well, stay happy and respectful. And as always, up the Arsenal.